So it's all for play for still.
I think so. Do you want to bet against us?
Hi, villains, and welcome to For the Love of Paul McGrath podcast. Apologies about that start there. I don't know what happened, but I said I wanted to jump on here because Nicolo Zaniolo has signed and he is an Aston Villa football player, and I wanted to mark the occasion because in recent times, I think I've not come across a player who's created as much discourse in his signing. Some people are for it, some people are against it, some people are focusing on the injuries, some people are focusing on the perceived off field issues and so on. So I wanted to come on and I wanted to tie a bow in the whole situation here. There's been a lot of conjecture over the last few days. People have said that this might be a panic signing. There was rumors abound over the last few days that medicals were failed and so on. So I wanted to just talk about it all in one kind of final podcast to do with the signing of Zaniolo, because we've done quite a lot of these already. I think we've done 3 already, but it is important to wrap this one up in a bow, I think, because I'm excited that he's signed for Aston Villa. From what I've seen from him, the talent is certainly there. Yes, he will need some time to bed into the league. And I think he's coming to a club with the perfect manager that can screw anybody's head on and can maybe get them to knuckle down and to play within a system. And this guy was one of the golden kids of Italian football. Injuries have curtailed his development, but prior to injury, he was an absolute colossus. If you listen to the podcast I did with Nima from the Italian Football Podcast, you'll know that he was on a trajectory. He was on a rocket to the moon, to be honest with you, regards to his status. Was more highly thought of than people like Federico Chiesa and other people of his ilk at that time, or his age, should I say, within the Italian structure. So if we can rekindle even 90% of what this guy has or what this guy had throughout the course of the years, then it's great business for Aston Villa, and I think Villa have done this in a way whereby they have protected themselves as well. The full details have come out already, but the full details will come out in the wash over the next few days. So I'm not going to reference prices or anything like that with regards to this, because we often find out that they were different a day or two later. So just talking about this as well, I want to get on to, over the last few days, there's been conjecture about the medicals, the medical situation here, that he failed a medical or there's concerns over his medical. And I know somebody who has been involved in football transfers. He knows the ins and outs of football transfers. And I reached out to him and I asked him, what's the situation here? Because to me, it seems pretty plausible that somebody could have a medical over 2 days. And that is the case. A lot of players will have a medical, like 80% of transfers will have a dual part medical. It just depends on what time you start the medical at. A lot of the times, if you started early in the morning, you can do both parts of the medicals. If certain consultants are available to look at some scan results, then you can do them all. You could essentially have it all done in 3 hours. But he said what tends to happen is, specifically for players who've got a big injury history or a long injury history, or somebody who's done their knee twice in a short space of time, or broken their leg twice, or has bad ankle injuries, or ripped the hamstring off the bone twice during their career. The people want to do their due diligence, and the medical would be done in 2 parts, where the first part of the medical would be, your standard cardiovascular stuff or whatever the case may be, and there would be obviously some scans that would be done then. And then, depending on when you can get access to a DEXA scan, you might be get in and get those scans done for bone structure, density, all that kind of stuff. He said, depending on what the club want to know about him or what the doctors want to know about him, the scans could delay the medical slightly. Now, also, as I mentioned, you need to have consultants available, because when all those scan results come back, and that's where the second day can come in. The second day, players are often brought back. There's slight stress testing or stress test analysis done on parts of their body, and then the club doctors would look over the results, but then the club doctors would oftentimes get a secondary set of eyes in. So maybe other consultants come in, take a look at the results and give their opinion on it as well. So you're at the mercy of when those people are available too. So just because somebody comes in and does a medical on a Tuesday, and maybe it isn't, or the Wednesday, and maybe it isn't announced until a Friday, that doesn't necessarily mean that there's anything wrong with a medical. I just wanted to talk about that. I just wanted to mention it because it was abound that there was an issue, and there may very well have been issues with the medical because they wanted a second opinion. The second opinion said I wouldn't worry about that, and that may very well be the case, but we will never know, or maybe we will only know when the club release it, if the club release it at all. So he has signed. The everything is checked out from a medical point of view, and he's now an Aston Villa football player. And the second point that I want to kind of address is that when this initially broke, it was almost tied to the Emi Buendia injury, and a lot of people online had mentioned that potentially this is a panic signing, and I don't buy that. I don't agree with it. It could have expedited us looking at this player or wanting to look at this player. Maybe we were okay with letting this one go down to the transfer window deadline. Maybe we're playing hardball on pricing and stuff like that. Maybe we thought that maybe Galatasaray wanted to turn a quick buck on it. Maybe it gave us more time to look over certain bits and pieces with him. But I think that or discuss bits and pieces with his agents and his entourage. But I think with this one, if you'll entertain my theory on this one, I don't think it's a panic signing. And the reason I don't think it's a panic signing is because it's been rumored, heavily rumored, and from good sources that we had an agreement to sign Tammy Abraham prior to his injury. Now, Tammy Abraham and Nicolo Zaniolo played together on the same Roma team. So if you're scouting Tammy Abraham, you're not going to not notice Nicolo Zaniolo. And I've got this suspicion that potentially there was thoughts of, okay, we bring in Abraham, and it's not that we would bring in Zaniolo just because we brought in Abraham, but they liked the look of what they saw from him. They obviously knew he's got all this potential, and I think that he was always on the radar. That and the fact we were linked with him in January as well, which to me is also a giveaway. So when you boil those two pieces down, I don't think this is a panic signing of, oh my God, who's available? We need to get somebody in. And the reason I don't think that as well is because there's weeks left in the transfer market. There's weeks left in the transfer market, and that to me negates the fact that it's a panic signing anyway. It's obviously, yes, we could have expedited this along its track, and I think that the evidence probably suggests that, but the due diligence was done in this player from a transfer point of view. I have to believe that because the evidence points in that way. So I just wanted to talk about that as well, because that's another little point that I just wanted to kind of bring up and discuss as well. And let me know what you guys think in the comments below as well, because I do appreciate your thoughts too. Obviously Nima as Nima was on the podcast with us, and he's entrenched in the Italian football. So his opinion is, as I say, is very well thought of. But what I got from him the most was the discussion in and around maybe the perceived off-field situation with Nicola Zaniolo. He referenced the baby mama piece, which essentially the mother of his baby and him and there was another footballer involved, and there was bad blood. There was animosity between him and another footballer, I think, that played with Lazio. And that made the headlines. And there was other pieces. I think his mother, if you haven't come across his mother on Instagram, his mother is quite a presence on Instagram as well. His father being a former footballer as well, so it wasn't alien to him to be, I suppose, in that kind of celebrity lifestyle, that celebrity bubble. And when you're this young golden player, for want of a better word, because he was on a trajectory to the moon, as I've said this before, more highly thought of than Enrique Chiesa. He was part of that new golden generation that the likes of Scamacca, and even though he's a small bit older than him, Sandro Tonoli, and like these guys have been earmarked to be a production line towards the Italian national team. And Zaniolo was there, only for injury. He was there, and he got injured very young. I think when you've gotten injured very young like that, the temptation is, to okay, I'm not going to be able to play for a year. You get bored, and maybe you start going on Instagram when you shouldn't, and maybe you start, and getting involved in conversations like that, in a public social aspect like that on social media when you shouldn't, or being photographed out with, you've got all the money in the world, like so you get photographed out with different people, and the ecosystem of celebrity begins to follow you around. Not saying I'm not making excuses for it or anything like that, but he without sin cast the first stone, I suppose, really. If any of us were in a situation like that and we were 20, 21 years of age, maybe we would have situations like that. Just think of Jack Grealish, albeit he hasn't been injured, he's been caught in situations there whereby he's enjoyed himself, and it's not illegal to do that. But when you're injured and when you don't have the next Saturday or the next Sunday or a couple of weeks in a row to have 4 or 5 really good games, it begins to become the narrative that this guy's injured, yet he's been photographed out and he's another woman on his arm, or he's consistently out, or before you know it, the papers have, oh, he's bought a new car and he's blah blah blah. It's the story grows new legs every single time. And Nima mentioned that that there's like almost this ecosystem of celebrity within Rome. That's I suppose every big city has it, but he said within Rome it becomes very very claustrophobic at times, and there's no privacy. And arguably, you could say that he has realized that he was in that situation, and going to Turkey, going to Galatasaray to take himself out of that situation for 6 months was step one in realizing that okay, my career needs to re-begin again. I have this talent, and I do not want to waste it. And he's gone to Galatasaray, and now he's coming to Birmingham. And while every single city has this kind of ecosystem of celebrity, Birmingham is not going to have it to the same degree as Rome, because the simple fact is he's going to come here and I don't know if his English is any good. Little bits and pieces like that. Yes, people will know who he is. He's 6'3". He's going to look like a footballer. He's a good looking Italian man, so people are going to notice him. But that ease of access to celebrity culture that he would have had in Rome, that won't be on his doorstep. And you would have to think that was something that was of consideration, getting his career back on track. And I'm willing to give anybody the benefit of the doubt that that's the situation. So when we think about the negatives that people have brought up about this player, and by all means, I do not think that this is a surefire transfer. I want to bring that in. I'm open to say that this is a 7 out of 10, or maybe 6.5 out of 10 for the sustainability of this transfer. I'm okay with saying that, but I like to try and be rational, and I like to try and see, right, these are the positives. The positives are, if you can get this guy ticking, we have him on what's been reported as a loan for a year with an option to buy. If you can get this guy ticking, the talent is absolutely off the scale. The talent is off the scale with this guy. And if you don't get him ticking, well, then you don't have to sign him. That's the upside. That's why we're constant. That's why that's there for everybody to see. And I will always give somebody that level of the benefit of the doubt. The negatives we're discussing now about maybe the celebrity culture that he immersed himself within in Rome, the injuries, as we said, the medical piece, the fact that the fan base we're talking about this potentially be, I won't say the fan base, a small portion of the fan base we're talking about this being a panic signing. So I think it's good to discuss all about this. But for me, I think he's come to the club that he needs to be at this moment in time. Sorry, I'll rephrase that. There's umpteen clubs he could be at that he needs to be at. But I think from the point of view of, if you want to come, and I am going to sound like, very almost bring out the cult mantra about Unai Emery here, but he's a professor. If you want to learn football, if you want to relearn football, if you want somebody to try maybe identify areas whereby you can improve, Unai Emery would be one of the top managers that can do that. He's proven it. He's done it before, and he's worked with players like this. He's time at Villarreal. A lot of retreads in that team. A lot of retreads. Etienne Capoue, Francis Coquelin. I will always go back to those. Danny Parejo. I will always go back to those three. They were his main men. All retreads. All retreads from the Premier League. Etienne Capoue, numerous teams. Coquelin, Arsenal. Danny Parejo had a season with QPR, albeit he was very, very young. All retreads. Nicolo Zaniolo, 24 years of age. It's not your typical retread. It's got a lot more upside from the point of view that this guy has talent to burn. Yes, he may not have the skill, or may not have the speed that he had previously, but he's got talent to burn. And if you can get him interested in football again, and if Aston Villa can get him interested in football again, and I firmly believe that we can get him interested in football again, well, then we've got a player on our hands. As I say, I'm delighted he's signed. I'm delighted he's signed. I completely understand that there are a couple of pieces that people want to be shown over the next 4 or 5 months. But I'm totally of the opinion that this guy can show us what he's made of, rehabilitate himself here at Aston Villa, and that Aston Villa then can go on to sign him if he does perform very well. I do like the way that I do like the way that it's been reported the deal has been structured. I think that Aston Villa have borne in mind, the potential that this guy has, while also tempering it with the obvious injury history that he's had. So we've given ourselves every chance to make this work, but we've also given ourselves an out if we need to move back from this towards the end of the year. So welcome aboard, Nicolo Zaniolo. I hope I will be chanting your name every single game that you play for Aston Villa, and I hope that you go down in the history books as one of Aston Villa's best ever signings. And welcome to B6, and welcome to Birmingham. And I look forward to you scoring numerous goals. So that's going to do it for us today, everybody. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you so much for listening. Going to leave you again, and we will see you the next time. In the meantime, stay safe, stay healthy, and all that's left to say is up the Villa.